Joining me right now is Ohio Congressman, House Oversight and Reform Committee member, ranking member, Jim Jordan. Great to see you, sir. Thanks very much for being here, Congressman. Love talking with you. This is all quite extraordinary, isn't it? You've got an incoming administration and Hunter Biden's evidence of Hunter Biden dealing with companies overseas, making huge millions from them while his father was a sitting vice president.
Yeah, he got $1 million from a Ukrainian company. He got $3 million from a Russian billionaire. He got $4 million from a company tied to the Chinese communists. And we now have an email where he's asking for $10 million more. We also have emails where it talks about giving the keys to his father as part of this business venture. And lest we not forget, we got the eyewitness from 2 months ago. We got Tony Bobolinsky, who was an eyewitness to it all, who says that in the one email, the big guy is in fact a reference to Vice President Biden, who says that he talked to Vice President Biden about the business arrangement. So this idea that somehow Joe Biden's not involved just doesn't square with the facts and doesn't square with what the testimony from the eyewitness who was on your network just 2 months ago.
Yeah, we were just watching, as you were talking, Congressman, Vice President Mike Pence and his wife, Karen Pence, getting the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine. He just got the shot in his arm. And obviously, this has been an incredibly positive story that the vaccine is out already on the market, something that President Trump told us to expect. And when President Trump said it, people mocked him that there's no way a vaccine can get on the market by the end of the year. Here we are watching the vice president get inoculated right there, right now. This is one of the reasons that people voted differently in this election as China hurled this virus at us.
Yeah,
we're going to listen to Vice President Mike Pence right now, real quick. Congressman, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Here's Mike Pence. He's got some comments after the shot.
Members of the White House Coronavirus Task Force who are joining us here today. I especially want to thank the fine medical team at Walter Reed Hospital that administered our vaccine today. I didn't feel a thing. Well done, and we appreciate your service to the country. You know, as the Christmas holiday approaches, this is always a season of hope. We gather here today at the end of a historic week to affirm to the American people that hope is on the way. And Karen and I were more than happy to step forward before this week was out to take the safe and effective coronavirus vaccine that we have secured and produced for the American people. It's a truly inspiring day.
I'm talking with Congressman Jim Jordan this morning, and we just watched Vice President Mike Pence get vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine. Congressman, I wonder what you think about all of this. China hurls this virus at the world. In doing so, not just killing 300,000 Americans, not to mention others across the world, but also changes the way America votes. Littering counties with ballots everywhere, governors taking it upon themselves to change the way we vote going into a presidential election, and the Supreme Court here now not hearing any of these cases to investigate fraud. Where are we, sir?
Yeah. Well, two things. First, I think Operation Warp Speed, just one more example of this president getting done what he said he would do. No president in my lifetime has accomplished more of what they told the American people they were going to do than President Trump. And this is just one more example. Even though the experts said it wouldn't happen until 2021, it in fact is happening as we speak. Second, you're exactly right. First time in American history where you had a major political party set out to win an election after the election. And what I mean by that is this mail-in balloting that you talked about, Maria. Well, I said this clear back in the summer. I said, we know on election night President Trump's going to be winning, but Democrats want all the confusion, throwing out live ballots. We had a staff member get 4 ballots sent to her residence. 4 ballots. She got her ballot and 4 other ballots that were from people who had already moved. They knew this kind of chaos was going to happen, and it was going to allow them to win the election after the election and keep counting and finding ballots as they did. So, yeah, I wish it wasn't the case where they went that route, because I think it was designed to create the confusion that we saw in this last election and make it difficult for President Trump to win.
Well, this is very dangerous, Congressman. I know you agree.
Sure
I
is.
mean, we need to be able to trust our elections. I've said this many times. This is the reason that our young men and women go and put their lives on the line and go fight on battlefields because they believe their vote matters. I want to ask you about the Eric Swalwell controversy rocking Congress. Your colleague on the left is on the Intel Committee. We know he's under fire after the revelations about his ties to a Chinese spy. China pretty much targeted him. They target local officials all the time, and they helped raise money for him. This was China's guy. Isn't this calling into question his seat on the House Intel Committee? What did he pass on to his special friend, the Chinese spy?
Well, I think, and even more important, and you raised this earlier, Maria, is what did the Speaker of the House know when she selected him and put him on the Intel Committee and has kept him on the Intel Committee? So, I mean, you step back for a second. Think about what we've learned in just the last week. We learned that, in fact, Hunter Biden was under investigation by the Justice Department. Over 2 years ago, they started to investigate Hunter Biden. We've learned that a member of the Intel Committee, Representative Swalwell, was in fact hanging out with a Chinese spy for years. And then we learned the Speaker of the House has kept him and kept him on the Intel Committee. We've all in 1 week, but somehow the big story over the last few years was, somehow President Trump was working with the Russians, which we know was a hoax. So I think the big takeaway from, frankly, all this is, why won't the press cover the real stories? I mean, you know how much time the networks have devoted to the Hunter Biden story in the last week and a half? 26 seconds. And the New York Times has yet to do a story on Eric Swalwell and his relationship with this Chinese spy. So that is a disservice to the American people from the mainstream press. Thank goodness you guys are covering the facts, covering the truth, and bringing real stories to the American people.
Well, this is a dereliction of Congress, frankly. I mean, how many hours did you spend in the Judiciary Committee, in the Intel Committee, in the investigative committees looking at Russia, Congressman? I mean, do you have a number for us? How many hours did you spend on briefings, on hearings about Russia, and compare that to the number of hours you've spent on China and the national security threats that exist?
Yeah, I don't have the hours, but I know it's been over the last 4 years, because this whole thing, you go clear back to when we started to figure out this dossier was National Enquirer garbage, when we went through the whole thing, when Comey, McCabe, Baker, Strzok, Page were all getting fired. The top 5 people at the FBI were all being let go or fired because of their involvement in this crazy situation. When we first got this Page and Strzok text messages and saw the bias they had against President Trump and how they started this ridiculous investigation based on no truth. When Rick Grinnell released the transcripts, declassified the transcripts, and we find out Clapper and Brennan and Yates, all these people said, well, there never really was any collusion, no conspiracy. I never saw anything, but we went ahead and investigated the president and put the country through what they did for 3.5 years. So, yeah, it was 3.5, 4 years we spent on this, and here we are now, with the vice president's son involved with this, with the direct eyewitness saying that the vice president was involved with his son's business, and not one bit of coverage from the mainstream press. And no one will ever convince me that the press didn't know about this, know about Hunter Biden being under investigation in October. Someone in the press knew about it, but yet no one would write the story, and they kept the American people in the dark prior to the election.
So what do you want to say then to viewers today who are feeling that, you know what, there was no accountability? It just goes to show you, and it looks like whatever party is in power can just use the investigative agencies at the U.S. government the way they see fit. They don't like you. They want to turn the investigation apparatus on their political enemy. Well, then that's what they're going to do, because that's what the Obama administration did to an incoming Trump administration. And we still haven't seen John Durham's report. We have one guy, Kevin Kleinsmith, who admitted to changing a document, and that's it. So is there no accountability? Should we expect that this Hunter Biden story just goes away? He made money on his father's position and influence peddled, and it'll go away. Where's the accountability, Congressman? What are you going to do about it?
Two things, Marie. You and I can't indict anyone. All we can do is bring the information to the American people, and only the Justice Department can indict people. I hope that they do, if in fact there is the sufficient evidence to indict people and hold people accountable. But you are exactly right. Emmett Flood wrote an amazing letter over 1.5 years ago when the Mueller report was first coming out. And he said in that letter, we would all do well to remember, if they can do it to a president of the United States, imagine what they can do to you and I. And that's the fundamental issue that we have to keep in mind as we move forward.
That is exactly the fundamental issue, given the fact that Carter Page was wiretapped and spied on for a year, and there were never any charges lobbed at Carter Page. That in and of itself is evidence of what took place here. Congressman, you've worked really hard on this, and we appreciate it. Thanks for joining us this morning.
You bet.
We know
Thank
that you will see justice and ensure there's accountability for our viewers and America. Congressman Jim Jordan.